Hello, everyone. Today is release day for God Rest Ye Murdered Gentlemen. God Rest Ye Murdered Gentlemen right here, which is the Christmas novella in the Foxy Ladies Mystery series featuring Hattie, Juniper, Pickle. Hattie is a spin-off character from the book Magic Mystery series that features Pippin Lane Hawthorne set on the Outer Banks. It's a little bit more serious of a mystery series, women's fiction with mystery elements, but Hattie was such a fun character that she needed a series of her own. So that's why we have the Foxy Ladies Mystery series that features Hattie and Lemon and Cricket and Maude, who get themselves into some mystery murder situations. So today I'm going to read to you chapter 1 from this series, from this book. Okay, and here we go. Chapter 1 from God Rest Ye Murdered Gentlemen. Wearing an elf dress didn't make you magical, unfortunately. No, as Hattie Juniper Pickle sidled down Rumrunner's Lane heading downtown, she felt like she was swimming through pea soup. She moved her arms like she was doing the breaststroke, but the marine layer was thick, and fog didn't actually move like water, so mostly she just looked silly. But Silly was Hattie's middle name. Or rather, Eclectic was, but Silly ran a close second. She was an islander by birth, something not too many people could say. Devil's Cove wasn't as touristy as many of the other Outer Banks islands, but it still brought plenty of outsiders. Case in point, she knew that as soon as she hit downtown, the island sidewalks would be teeming with people ready to start their holiday shopping and gearing up for the holiday parade and tree lighting that would be happening that afternoon, which, full circle, is why Hattie was currently wearing the aforementioned elf dress. No, not because she was going to be in the parade, perish the thought, but because she'd take any and every opportunity to be one of Santa's helpers, because who doesn't want to wear an elfin dress? She smacked her lips together, gauging how thick her fire red Indian lipstick was. Did she need more? The obvious answer to that question was, of course. A woman can never have too much lipstick on. She popped open the little lunch pail that she used to carry around the essentials, her lipstick, of course, her ID, her glasses. Today's were enormous red frames in a one-of-a-kind leopard print, one of a kind because she'd painted them herself. And a mashed pack of cigarettes. Not that she needed those, because she didn't actually smoke, not anymore. But like her lipstick, she needed them, or at least she wanted them. They were more or less part of her. She'd given up the vice long ago, but by having one of the cancer sticks with her at all times, she tricked herself into believing it wasn't forever. They were her binky, only full of flaky bits of nicotine and tobacco. She swiped a swath of lipstick over her lips, dropped the tube back into her lunch pail, pulled on her mittens, and marched on. A biting wind blew in from the Atlantic. Hattie's elf dress was not keeping her warm enough, but fashion was everything, and wearing her orange winter coat would cover up the whimsical holiday outfit, and she couldn't have that. The outfit was pretty tame compared to what she normally wore. Every color of the rainbow and mix and match patterns, whether they went together or not. In fact, all the better if they didn't match. That made her outfits much more interesting. Her dress moved as a whole as she walked, the hula hoop she'd sewn into the hem bobbing and bouncing with every step. Necessity was the mother of invention and all that. She wanted her dress to flare out like it had been heavily starched. The brilliant, if she did say so herself, idea of using a hula hoop to make that happen had done the trick. The bells she'd attached to her sleeves jingled and jangled with every swing of her arms, and with her red mittens, red and white striped stockings, and red boots, she fancied herself a walking, breathing Christmas tree with pizzazz. She marched along. An extra giant, extra hot peppermint latte was what she needed, and Ruby Malone made the best and only Christmas in a cup coffees in town. It was eerily quiet out. Everyone on Rumrunner's Lane was probably still tucked into their beds, visions of sugar plums dancing and all that. That meant there was no one to admire her elf dress. Ah, well, soon enough she'd be at Devil's Brew Cafe, and the Foxy ladies would be there, and there'd be plenty of oohs and ahs. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, heavy footsteps sounded from behind her. She spun around and braced herself, arms up and karate chop ready, because situational awareness was a cornerstone of safety no matter one's age. And while Hattie was into her twilight years, although no one knew just how far in, and she'd never tell, she would never be a victim of almost elder abuse. No way, no how. Before she even registered the shape of a person, whoever it was passed her by. Hey! She spun around and jammed her hands on her hips, but the man, she knew it was a man from the size of him as he passed, was gone. She caught a whiff of his scent but couldn't place it. Before she could think too hard, the fog just sucked him up and swallowed him whole. She didn't like being nearly bowled over and by someone without the decency to even say Merry Christmas when she was so clearly dressed as one of Santa's elves. Rude, she muttered and started walking again. By the time she made it to the end of the street where Rum Runner's Lane had turned into Main Street, the incident was gone from her head. She had better things to think about, namely if she was going to shack up with Levi Bantam, her first and third husband, who was now vying to be her fourth. He was the love of her life, it was true, but she and Carrot, her calico rag doll, were just fine on their own. Maybe friends with benefits was all she needed. She'd expected the streets to be bustling with islanders and tourists milling around. There were some, but not nearly as many as she'd anticipated. Apparently, those visions of sugar plums had spread beyond Rum Runner's Lane. She walked on because she and the foxy ladies, Cricket Esther, Lemon Bagley, and Maude Whistler, were meeting at Devil's Brew Cafe to draw names for their Secret Santa gift exchange. Every year, for as far back as Hattie could remember, the four unlikely friends had gathered on this day and drawn each other's names. Then they left gifts for each other to celebrate the season. Gag gifts usually, though what the others thought of as gags, Hattie usually loved in earnest. Another gust of biting wind cut through her dress and a chill wound through her. Her teeth stopped mid-chatter as a harsh, bodiless voice cut through the fog and growled, "You win some, you lose some." A male someone. She sniffed. Was that the same lingering scent that had wafted off the man who'd passed her a little while ago? Who was he talking to? For that matter, who was he? His voice had come from somewhere ahead. Hattie narrowed her eyes to peer through the fog as if that would help her identify who was talking and who was with him, but it was just too thick. She slowed her pace, not wanting to burst through the mist and surprise whoever it was in the middle of a private conversation. She could cross the street, but she immediately dismissed that idea. Why? Because she prided herself on knowing everything about everybody on the island. She didn't get that reputation by crossing the street. The silence stretched. Had he kept walking? Was he gone? Then the man spoke again, and she heaved a relieved sigh. There was still intel to be had. I can do whatever I want, that disconnected voice said. Another pause, then watch me. How very mobster-like and right here on Devil's Cove. Hattie held her breath, waiting for whatever came next, but nothing came next. That's when she realized whoever he was talking to was on the other end of a phone conversation. Fine, the man barked, and then all was silent. It was as if the man had suddenly evaporated. She cocked her head and cupped her ear, listening. Was that the faint sound of footsteps? She took another step forward, peering this way and that, but there was nothing but dense fog. Then a movement to her left caught her attention. She nearly gasped, but Hattie Juniper Pickle did not get spooked by disembodied voices and fog, for Pete's sake. She spun to look, and there, a figure. Was that? But then it disappeared between the buildings whose backs were to the Atlantic, and she couldn't be sure. You win some, you lose some, she said aloud, but to herself. So ominous. Another voice came out of the mist. Are you talking to me? Win what? Lose what? This time Hattie did yelp. She pulled up short as a figure materialized like a specter, smack in the middle of her path. Instantly, Hattie hopped into her karate chop stance. What the? She barked, but stopped short when she recognized the woman standing there like an apparition. Mary Brightly, owner of the island's year-round Christmas shop, Merry and Bright, which was a perfect play on words. Mary Brightly, what in tarnation are you doing out here? You scared me to death. Hattie, you're the one talking to no one, Mary said. That was the perfect opening. Did you just see someone? She started, but something made her stop. Mary's expression was as innocent as it always was, but what was she doing out here in the deep fog all by herself? Of course, Hattie was also out here in the deep fog by herself, but she knew she was not up to anything nefarious, and whoever she just heard talking seemed to be. Well, maybe he hadn't been talking on the phone after all. Maybe he'd been talking to Mary, who'd been whispering. Mary's face crinkled up like used wrapping paper. See someone? Like who? If she knew who, she wouldn't be asking. But she thought better about pressing Mary because what if the man she'd heard hadn't been on the phone but had been talking to Mary? Are you okay, Hattie? Mary looked at her like she'd lost her marbles. Hattie actually got that a lot. She took a better look at Mary Brightly. She'd worn a coat which at the moment Hattie was mighty jealous of because Mary looked a whole lot warmer than Hattie felt. Was someone here? Mary asked, looking up and down the street, but not looking in the direction the man had gone behind the taco shop and ice creamery. I heard someone talking, she said, because she had to give some explanation. I thought maybe you were with who? Hattie waved the question away with a flick of her wrist. Nobody, nothing, never mind. Mary looked at her, brow crinkled for just a second, then her face smoothed out and she looked her cheery self again. Well, it wasn't me. Hattie considered her. Was she telling the truth, or was she just a little too red-cheeked and innocent acting, a little too vehement in her declaration? I thought maybe it was... She broke off. What she thought and who it was might be two different things, and while Hattie was the queen of information, she didn't earn that title by theories and suppositions. No, she kept to the facts. She was a little suspicious of Mary Brightly's sudden appearance, but suspicions didn't pay the rent. Not that she had rent to pay. She was born and raised on Devil's Cove, and in the house her granddaddy built, owned free and clear, which is one reason she'd never leave it, not even for an ex-husband, one who tempted her away from Rum Runner's Lane, but hadn't been able to keep her away. You thought it was who? Mary asked, her eyes as big as Christmas stars. Hattie took her unlit cigarette from behind her ear and held it between two fingers. Nobody, nothing. I'm hungry and I need coffee. Mary nodded at this. I totally get that. When I need food and caffeine, OMG, I can't think straight. I get hangry. She adjusted the Santa hat on her head and she looked Hattie up and down. A smile spread on her face. And Hattie Juniper Pickle, I do declare you make a fine-looking elf. Hattie nearly burst out laughing at the way Mary Brightly channeled Scarlett O'Hara with her I do declares and fiddle-dee-dees. High praise from the Queen of Christmas herself. It's a festive day, Mary exclaimed. In fact, most of Mary's words came out as exclamations. I'm opening early. That made perfect sense. The parade and Christmas tree lighting kicked off the holiday season for the locals and the tourists. Hattie waved her cigarette around like she was the Wicked Witch of the West, and it was her broomstick flying through the air and writing, Surrender, Dorothy. The cold was seeping all the way to her bones. Gotta go. I'll see you later, Mary, Hattie said. But before she could turn on her elfin boot and tromp off, Mary grabbed her arm. The jolt sent her lunch pail purse flying, the hard case of the lipstick and her glasses banging around inside. The pail landed with a tinny thunk, bouncing off the sidewalk. Oh! Mary took off after it, scooping it up and hurrying back. A deep frown plastered on her normally cheery face. I'm so sorry, Hattie. It's dented. Hattie's face pinched. It was indeed. I have some adorable new ones. They're absolutely adorable. They're Christmassy. Hattie plucked her lunch pail purse from Mary's hand. One corner had taken the brunt of the blow and was fully bashed in. No need, Hattie said. She didn't want a Christmas lunch pail. Barbie? Now that she could get behind. But you'll love them. They could be straight from Whoville. Oh, I never got a chance to say thank you. Jiminy Christmas. She could get whiplash from the sharp turn of Mary's conversation. Thank me for what? The way you stood up for me at the Board of Commissioners meeting last month. I almost won the contract for new decorations. I think what you said really helped. I wanted to try again at the last meeting, but I just didn't want to see that Matty Mooge again. Jeepers, but he sets me on fire. Too bad you didn't win the contract, Hattie said as they started to walk together. Matty Mooge, the town's equivalent to Ebenezer Scrooge, had made his case against the new decorations, although why he even cared was a mystery. Mary Brightly's plea to change them had gone down in flames. But I almost did, Mary declared, and Matty Mooge won't be around forever, so I'll get that contract eventually. Mary Brightly certainly earned her name, Hattie thought. She was merry and bright. A glass half full kind of woman, just like Hattie. I reckon you will, she said as Mary waved and turned at the cross street that would take her to her shop. And just like the man Hattie overheard a few minutes ago, the fog swallowed her up. Okay, that was chapter 1 of God Rest Ye Murdered Gentlemen, which is a Hattie Juniper Pickle spin-off story, the Foxy Ladies Mystery. So you can grab that today and keep yourself in that holiday spirit. Be back another day with chapter 2. See y'all later.